Hey y'all, it's Brooklyn, and I am with Recovery Roundtable. Tonight is June 6th already. Isn't it crazy? Um, kind of like to prep myself by listening to a little bit of music and kind of like settling all that anxiety or stress like starting up. So I know everybody says I don't own rights to the music. I don't. But I really love this song so much. Um, it's just I don't know what it is about the song, but I really like it. It's the Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper "Shallow." There was a point in time when I could not listen to this without trying to like tear up. It was crazy. I will be bringing my guest on here in just a minute. I'm waiting for her to accept the request. Hey, Rosalind. Hey, Lucas. And hey, girl. All right.
Hey.
So you are joining us finally. I'm finally getting to meet with you and visit with you. Let's see here. Hi, Taya. Happy birthday, Taya. Today is my niece's birthday. Very excited about that. And so tonight on Recovery Roundtable, we have Spirit Whiteshield, and she is with Blessed Builders Sober Living, and it's all in the caption. So basically, what we do at Recovery Roundtable is we just share our stories of our life experience and what it's been like, you know, through your journey to recovery. And so you can go back as far as you want. You can get as into detail as much as you want, whatever makes you comfortable. And again, for the listeners, sometimes there are conversations that we have here that make people uncomfortable, and that's okay. If at any point somebody gets a little too uncomfortable, it's okay to just log off, and you can send me a message if you know, because sometimes we talk about things that could be triggers to other people, right? So we just want to be mindful about that. But if anybody ever feels, you know, that they need some extra support, message me, hit me up on Facebook, or you can call me, email me. So let's start. I usually like to start by saying prayer. And so I keep forgetting like the last couple of episodes, and I'm just like, oh, I get to the end and I'm like, oh, I forgot to pray. So I just like to do that to stay in a good way, so that way we, you know, we're mindful of our conversations and just protecting ourselves and other people that are joining us tonight. So, all right, you ready? Do you want to say, or should I say? Yeah.
To pray?
Okay, let's do
pray.
it. All right.
Okay. Dear God, our Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for providing for all that you do. I just want to thank you for this opportunity that I get to have today. And I just want to thank you for Brooklyn. And I just want to ask you that you just be invited into this Facebook Live, invited into all of our hearts and our minds, and just help us to be reminded of your purpose, and just allow us to have a good time, and just have you speak through me, and whatever it is I have to say today, I just hope that it touches someone's heart. And just thank you again for everything that you do. And Jesus' name,
thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so we can get started. And I will just kind of let you keep the mic. All right. Alrighty.
Okay. All right. Okay, so my name is Spirit Whiteshield. Like she said, I am from the Standing Rock Reservation. That is where I grew up. I am the second oldest out of 11. I Well, technically, I am the third, but unfortunately, before me, I had a sister that had passed away. So that makes me the second oldest. Um, and I can tell you that this much that it's very hard to be an older sibling, setting that example, being the caring and loving person I do my best to be for my siblings. Um, so I grew up with alcoholic parents. My mom, from what I can remember, that's kind of just what I knew her as, drinking. Dad has been in and out of my life ever since I was born. Um, and still to this day, I have no contact with him or anything. But yeah, so growing up, I guess, anybody who lives on the reservation, it's kind of like poverty, it's a struggle. So I grew up like on GA, commodities, going to the pantry, going to the church and just having one meal. Um, my mom wasn't very a working mother, so she lived on GA, she lived on whatever government assistance we had, or that they could provide for her. So about the age that I can remember is probably the age of 7. I had to learn how to help my sister take care of my siblings, learning how to change the diapers, learning to make food and put it on the table. And my mom, she was there, but she wasn't there, if that
Yep.
makes sense. Like she, had the parties and, she was there, but I guess not a very present mother. So, but the one thing she implemented on us harshly was about going to school. And I actually really liked going to school because we got 2 meals during the day. Um, and so I was very kind of like a nerd in school all the way up into middle school. I was in like student government all the way until I graduated. And I was in band, very musically um, oriented. I played like 5 instruments, and I eventually taught myself how to sing. So I would like sing the national anthem at school or at football games and basketball games and stuff. And I got I guess my name kind of out there by doing that. So like, I wasn't like the cheerleader or the jock girl or whoever it was, but I guess I was very well known in middle school and high school through that way. And I got to travel to New Mexico for the science fair, one state and nationally, almost every year until I graduated. And it was, school was kind of like my getaway to being away from home. Um, but so, like I said, mom was an alcoholic, so I remember there were times where I would have to go live with grandma, and I would have to take the bus down to South Dakota sometimes, and I would just, I guess like being a kid, you don't really know like what's normal or what isn't, and being a kid, I'm thinking that this is normal, right? Like this is something that happens to all of us. So when um, my freshman year, I went to um, my mom and I actually ended up getting into this argument, and it got to the point to where we got really physical, and I went to school that next day and I had bruises all over me, and it was just really horrible. And anyway, after that I got sent to the group home, and I was there for like 4 months. And also during this time too, I have I guess like a history of self-harm. Now that I kind of recognize it, I did that for attention. I did that to try to get my mom's attention and try to seek my mom's love, or try to make her notice me, because I didn't I don't know what love is, and I don't know how to give love, how to get love, any of that. So um self-harm was my way of doing that. And I actually do remember getting sent to a hospital for a couple of days because that's not normal for a kid to go through any of that. But anyways, after the group home, I went to my grandmother's, and I stayed with her for my freshman and sophomore year. And I was doing really well in school, and I was okay. And eventually, it was time for me to go back home to my mom. So I went back to my mom's, and it was the same thing. Mom's still drinking. Mom's still, um, I really hate to say it now, but like mom chose men over, her children. So we never really, I guess, like got a chance to, like see what like loving parents were. Um, Seeing men come in and out of the house, the parties, and whatever it was. So anyway, I still went to school every day. I still did my best to show up for my siblings, but by this time, the rest of my siblings all got sent to like group homes or got sent home with their dad, if they can provide for them. For a while, it was just me and my older sister and my two. No, it was just me and my sister there for a while. And the two youngest ones ended up coming back. So my older sister, she is 28. I am 25, and it kind of just goes down the road every 2 years. So our youngest sibling is 7, or no, she's 8 now. And it's just kind of crazy how we're all like 2 years apart
Yeah.
going down the road. Um, but yeah, so we have a big family, and I ended up graduating high school in 2014. Huge accomplishment. I got accepted into 2 colleges. One was to be here in North Dakota and Bismarck, full scholarship, everything paid for. But at this time, I am just about to turn 18, and I am ready to leave North Dakota. And I had gotten accepted into a college in Fort Worth, Texas. And so that's where I had went. Um, so before that, I actually met this family. I don't know if anybody knows Vacation Bible School, but they would come.
Oh,
These
yeah.
people from
Yep.
missionaries, I should say, come from they came from
Yes.
Texas, and they I got really close with this family, and every Christmas I would go spend Christmas with them, and then eventually ended up going to every summer and Christmas, and just got super close with them. And I think that was like the first time I was able to experience loving parents and a loving family. And but being that age too, I guess it was really foreign. And I got homesick. So after I graduated, I went down there for a semester, and I ended up coming back home. And I, um, I ended up not even going back, and then I ended up getting pregnant, and I had my daughter in 2015, and she, one of the biggest blessings I have in my life today. But after that, I moved to Bismarck, and I went and I got a job in housekeeping, and I was there for like 2 years. And during all this too, I did not have an alcohol problem. I'd smoke weed here and there, but I was really into just, getting a job, keeping the house paid for, and getting the car and making sure that everything was good in my household. Excuse me. But then eventually, after I had turned 21, I guess that's where my journey started to begin. Um, Me and my daughter's dad fell off, and it just got to the point to where like I just kind of wanted to do my own thing. Growing up, I was always told what to do, how to do it, who to do it with, and I eventually just wanted to do whatever the heck spirit wanted to do. So when I turned 21, I started drinking. That's where my drinking career started to begin. And at first, it was just like on the weekends, going to work during the week, party on the weekends. And then eventually it got to being almost every day, and to the point to where I couldn't take care of my daughter anymore. So I gave joint custody to my daughter's grandmother, and that's on her dad's side. Um, and that's who she resides with today. Um, and so after that, like I said, the relationship I was with her dad, it got really abusive, and I didn't want to do with it anymore. And realizing it now too, like I was a cheater, I was a liar, I was a manipulator. I, did anything and everything I could to get what I wanted. So I left and I gave him the apartment, I gave him the car, I gave him everything, and I just ended up leaving, not really knowing what I was doing. And I was homeless after that. So I eventually ended up getting another job, and it was okay, and I ended up moving in with my older sister. But then again, I got into the wrong crowd, and I ended up getting addicted to meth for like 2 years. During that time, gosh, I literally remember like going to the bars and like seeking out like men or like anybody just so I would have somewhere to sleep. Um, and eventually I ended up living in someone's shed for like almost 6 months to a year. And the crazy part about it is like I was okay with that lifestyle. I was okay with living in someone's shed, no bills, nothing to do, just, doing whatever the heck spirit wanted to do. So after that, my brother, I call him my little big brother, and he's a huge part of me, my recovery, I like to say, because in the times where I would want to get sober, I would reach out to him and be like, okay, like I'm done, I'm done. And there's always that one more last time. So I would call him and I would, okay, I'm done, and he would come get me and I would sober up for maybe like 4 days the most. But then I would go back out. And not once had my brother ever, turned me down or anything, but it eventually came to the point to where he gave me conditions to live with him. Um, you got to have a job, you got to clean the house, or go to school, whatever it was. So this was probably in 2018, no, probably 2019. I eventually ended up going back to school, and I went to the United Tribes, and I was there for a full year. I was good, and I wasn't doing drugs anymore. But the drinking was still, I guess, out of control. I would still drink in between classes. When class was over, I would go to the bar. There's literally like, a bar, maybe like a mile and a half away. I would go drink. Or the night before, I would pick up, little shooters and have them with me. And, I would drink wherever I went. And got to the point to where I couldn't get up for school anymore. I went and ended up dropping out, or actually they put me on academic probation because my grades started to dramatically change. So academic probation, and I couldn't even keep up with that. So I ended up dropping out, and I went to again back to housekeeping because that was the easy job for me to do. And I tried serving one time, but it was just too much at that time. But so I ended up getting into another relationship and thinking that it was, gonna solve all my problems. He had a job, I had a job, we were okay, and we ended up getting this apartment together. And I ended up getting into some heavier drugs, which I first tried opiates. And this is it's kind of crazy to think about, but I, opiates are such an addictive drug right away. Like I can't even explain like how fast you can get addicted to them. Um, but that's what I did, and it just progressed, and it progressed even more, and it ended up leading me into my legal situation that I'm dealing with today. I ended up getting indicted because of them, or because of addiction, and I won't go into full detail about what happened or how it happened, but I ended up spending over 4 months in jail, not knowing, what, what's going on. The funniest thing is when I got arrested, I thought that it was just gonna be a weekend thing when they told me like, Spirit, you're arrested for a federal warrant, and all this stuff. I'm like, federal? Like this shit's crazy. But so I ended up spending a 4.5 months in jail, and during that time in jail, I like to give kudos to people who are willingly be able to get sober on their own, because I feel like if I didn't get into the trouble that I did today, like I wouldn't, I wouldn't be here today. Um, so I in that jail cell, I remember like not knowing who to call, knowing what to do, or like I was just in complete like emptiness. I didn't know, like, really, it's in a state of mind like where you don't know what you could do, or there's nothing you can do. So I finally was able to get sober enough, because the withdrawals from like everything. I was on meth, I was on heroin, I was on fentanyl, I was on, you know, alcohol, like anything that I could get my hands on, I was withdrawing from it. So I was able to finally, get a clear conscience of what was going on, and they say that you have to be careful what you pray for. Um, I remember sitting in that, finally taking a shower and eating. I remember, praying to God that, like, just give me the patience to get through this. 4.5 months later, I get out. But during that time too, so there was a sober living that I had applied to 3 times, and I had gotten denied because of a co-defendant that was there. So I didn't lose hope. I eventually got in contact with this other sober living in Minot, and I got a hold of the administrator, and one of the first things that she ever told me was, because I was supposed to get out in December, and the person that I was with ended up not even showing up. So I had to stay in there for like another 2 weeks. And when you're on federal holding, like it takes a lot of time to get a motion through the judge and get a motion through your attorney, and like all of the, like the process of it is such a timely process. So like it was such like it was a downfall when I couldn't get out when I wanted to. But I think it happened for a reason, because I don't think that if I got out during the time that I did, I don't think I would have showed up at that sober living. But on January 1st, I got out, and I got to go home to the sober living at Minot. And that was one of the things that the administrator told me. She, I would call her like every day, is there a bed still open? Because it's a first come, first serve. So I called her every day, and she was like, yeah, I'll come pick you up and we'll go home. I haven't had a home in years. So when someone told me that we're going to go home, like I was all for it. So after that, I went home to sober living in Minot, and super foreign to me on when people are coming up to you, hugging you, and telling you that they love you already and that you're in a good place. I was scared because Minot, I'd never been to Minot before. No family, no friends, no nothing. But I just knew that I wanted to get out of jail. So in the sober living, they kind of throw you into recovery. You dive head feet right in, and the requirements were that you find a sponsor, um, that you find a home group, and you go to it was really 12-step program oriented. So I had to go to like 14 meetings a week. Um, and you have to get up and do chores. You have to get up and make your bed. And you have to sign out on this board, and you have to do all these requirements. And I was just like, just to live here, like this is crazy, But like, I never knew what it was like to get up in the morning and make your
Yeah.
own bed, like it's crazy how much you can do if you just make your bed in the
Yeah,
morning.
right.
But so I got very involved, and I started to get used to it. And I was there like the first 6 months, doing the thing, getting recovery, doing what I was told, and still playing the waiting game on what was going to happen with my legal situation. So I stopped worrying about it and was just like, if God wants me to, just not worry about it, I'm not going to worry about it. So that's what I ended up doing. And eventually I got to hold a position there at the sober living. And it was just more responsibility on me, but it was probably one of the best things I ever got to do because it taught me responsibility. It taught me accountability. It taught me to be, caring of others, and, being an example of what a woman in recovery looks like. So I was there all the way until November. Um, During this time, back in October, my mom ended up getting diagnosed with cirrhosis. And it was pretty bad because COVID was still around. And I like to think that she was a recovering alcoholic today because she actually tried to stop drinking after she had got diagnosed. And this was her going in and out of the hospitals almost every day. We would go to the emergency room, and they would give her medication, and they would send her home. Um, so I had to make a decision, because it was bad, and it was either I stay at the sober living, where I built this family, and be there for them, or I come home and be here for my mom. It was probably one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make in my recovery because I I know what sobriety feels like, and I know like what I want to do with my life, and I know that I want to be helpful, and I want to make a change, for people like me and people that have been in situations like me. So, um, I prayed hard about like what I should do. And my sponsor till this day tells me that we take this program home to our family. So that's what I did. I ended up applying at this different sober living, Blessed Builders, where I'm at now, and I got accepted right away, which I did not for a second think. I was thinking like a couple months down the road, and she accepted me the week of I, did my application, and I was just like I don't know what to do. Like, like can you hold a bed for me? Like I have to put my 2 weeks in at work, and she is probably one of the most kind-hearted people I've ever known in my life. Because she held that bed for me, and she told me to figure my stuff out in Minot, and then I can come home. So I was just like, okay. So I ended up leaving the sober living in Minot. I think it was November 8th I had left, or 3rd. It's beginning of November anyways. And it was a very tough decision because like I and I'm saying this because like in recovery, you still make mistakes. You still like, just because you get sober does not stop life from happening. Um, and I had left the house like not on the bestest terms because I was so like, okay, I need to get home with my family. I need to go. And so I ended up leaving with them without giving them a proper notice. Um, so I guess you could say I left the house like on a resentment, whatever it was. And I feel like in the time before I like tried to like let them know, but But anyway, so I ended up leaving, and a super unfortunate event happened. The administrator of the sober living in Minot ended up passing away. A week later, I
Wow.
had left, and it was a huge like thing to, and I still feel like to this day I'm grieving about it, because it's like, oh, why couldn't I just, you know, communicate with her about this? Why couldn't I just, talk to her about this? But I know that God wouldn't have placed me in the position I'm in if He didn't think it was part of His will. So I, I ask for forgiveness. I, ask Him to continue to help me to move forward. And I think that the administrator there had, always wanted what was best for me, and, to bring myself home to my family. So I give myself comfort in that. So I come home to Bismarck, whole different uh, thing to get adapted to, because I so used to like, oh, I gotta sign on this board. I gotta make sure that these girls are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I gotta make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. With the sober living I'm at now, they're very lenient, but it's about your own accountability. And there are still required meetings that you have to go to, and there's still requirements of being at the sober living, but I guess there was just more leniency that I had to learn within myself, rather than be like, Spirit, you got to do this, you have to do that. It's a very, I guess, like, not like a highly structured place than where I was at before. So, um, so yeah, I move here, and mom is still in and out of the hospital, and I get a job right away here, and every day after work, I would go down to the hospital, and visit my mom. And eventually, she got COVID, and when you have cirrhosis, all your organs are failing. Um, and she ended up getting COVID and ended up getting to her lungs. So they had her in like ICU for at least a couple weeks before she ended up passing away in January. And it's it's super weird because, like I said, like I never had to deal with feelings being sober. I never had to like grieve alone being sober. Um, and I had my doubts about me wanting to still be sober, because when I first came here, I had old friends hit me up like, "Hey, do you want to go to the bar?" Or, "Can you get this? Can you get that?" So it was very challenging to keep my head up high and keep moving forward, and realizing like what my purpose was. And when my mom had passed away, like it was a really, I guess, to contemplate, like, do you really want this? Do you really want recovery? Like, do you really want to keep moving forward? So, um, obviously, still today, I am still sober, and it's such a challenge though, because grief comes in waves. It comes, like, sometimes it comes in rushing. I could be sitting at a coffee shop and a song of my mom would come on, or it would remind me of my mom, and I would like
Yeah.
start crying, and or there could be like, I see someone with their mom, and I'm just like, oh. So Mother's Day this year was very tough, because I work at a restaurant, and uh, seeing the mothers and the kids, people come in, and I'm just like, Happy Mother's Day, Mom,
Yeah.
you know. Um, but it's, I find a lot of I do my best to remind myself of like the happy things that my mom did. She taught me to be strong. She taught me to be patient. She taught me to keep moving forward, and to not let people, get the best of me. So it's just kind of, I still believe that she's still with me in here. Um, and my sponsor tells me all the time that, she's always going to be with you, just not in physical form. So I believe that strongly today. Um, so like I said, I have a sobriety date. It's September 17th of 2020. 21 months of sobriety, and I have the pleasure of sponsoring other women, I'm very involved in the 12-step program. I go to meetings. I was involved in committees. And it's just been such a crazy journey because if you asked me 2 years ago to try this thing out, I probably would have said no. If you told me that I was going to be this person today 2 years ago, I wouldn't have believed you. I strongly believe that there is still so much more yet to discover in this life. Like, it's only 2 years, but like, I think that like I'm still a baby in recovery. I still think that I'm just now learning all this, and it's crazy because like when I see like the new people come in, or and I'm telling them like you should do this, you should do that, and um being that example, it's sometimes hard to live up to within myself because I still deal with things by myself too. Um, but God reminds me every day of what my purpose is, and it's to fulfill His will and to, you know, um, be of service to His kids, And I believe that there is a purpose out there for me. I don't know what it is yet, but I know that I'm doing my best to keep going. Um, with the relationship that I have with my daughter today, it's very rocky, but I like learning in recovery, learning to be a parent, learning to be a mom, and there's just so many things that I feel like I've gone through, and it's just like, how am I still here? How am I still like breathing? But that just reminds me that there's something bigger out there for me. There's something I still have yet to do, and that's what just keeps me going every day. And being here on this live, like, shout out to Joe, but she has been trying to get me to get on this for a while, and I just like, finally, let's just do it. And I get excited to do these things because it's just like, even if it's just if I don't touch one person, or no, if I don't touch everybody in this room, but as long as if I touch one person in that room, then that means I fulfill the purpose, you know. Um, so I'm just really, really grateful that I had this opportunity today, and I just hope that one day, or I hope I touch somebody's heart today and let them know that you can keep going, you can keep doing this, and to not give up, and that there is so much more to life than drinking and doing drugs and living in that stagnant lifestyle. And like, if you want to reach out, then reach out. Like, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be like, get out of that comfort zone out, because what I've learned too is like, you have to get uncomfortable to grow. So I'm just like, okay, if I'm in an uncomfortable situation, I have an opportunity to grow. And every day, like, I've learned that like, my God that I have today, like, He grows with me, because my God that I had a year ago is not the same one that I had. So every day, like, I choose recovery, and that's like the gift that I get to have today, is to choose to have that choice, because I feel like doing drugs and drinking and all that stuff, I didn't have like the will to like not stop. So like, now I get to choose, like, okay, are you gonna go drink over this, or are you gonna go to a meeting? Are you gonna call your sponsor, or are you gonna go hit somebody up who's doing drugs or drinking? The fact that I get that choice today, that's all I need. And it's just like a beautiful thing to keep, like, to have that choice and to keep going. And it's not easy. It's never gonna be easy. I just know that you get the opportunity to live with it in a healthier way. I do my best to be a positive role model. I, even in the darkest days, I still choose to live in faith, to have that hope. A simple smile or a wave can make someone's day. So I believe that, like, to be kind no matter where you are, who you're with, even if people who, like, don't like you or have something against you, you still be kind. And that's what I truly live by. So, like, again, I said, I just want to thank you again for this opportunity. And yeah, I love you all, and hopefully I touched somebody in some way today. And yeah, I think that's all
Yeah.
I got.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. I mean, I'm sure that there's more than just one person out there that you have touched their heart, you know, because there's so many people out there that have been on this same road as you. And, you know, some are behind, some are right where you're at, some are further ahead, you know, like 30 years, or, you know, how you talked about feeling like being a baby
Right.
still in recovery, but you're, I mean, 2 years is a long time. So definitely give yourself that credit, you know, for being healthy that long. Um, so
Thank you.
I uh, I forgot to mention in the beginning of the video that if anybody in the audience has any questions, just to go ahead and post them in the comments section. And then if you're comfortable with answering questions from other individuals, if anybody has
Yeah.
any questions, now's the time. So um, there was something that I was thinking about while you were visiting, and made a note. If you see me looking down or kind of looking somewhere else, I'm making notes to myself because I'm just like, oh, I want to come back to that, you know? So I promise I'm paying
Right.
attention, but I'm just like making notes. So,
You're good.
um, let me see where, um, so I mean, I've heard this a lot, and even for myself personally, like I know how this feels. And you talked about when you were younger and you would go to school, you know, and that was your getaway. And so can you maybe explain that feeling or that experience, like how that feels, um, to, of like getting away from your home? You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of people that probably understand how that feels, but there might be some people out there that don't really understand what that means or what that feels like, you know? Instead of saying, oh, well, she's just
Right.
avoiding a problem or something like that. And it's like, well, for my sanity, right? You know, like I need some time away. But can you like touch
Right.
on that just a little bit, because I want people to understand really what that means and what that feels like.
Right. Absolutely. So I guess you can say that it was a relief. Um, and like I said, like I got 2 meals during the day. Never had, breakfast. So getting up in the morning and be able to have a full belly, um, and it was that's literally the only word I can think of right
Yeah.
now is relief. Um, because when I would get up and get ready for school, beer bottles everywhere, people I don't know laying on the couch, not even know where my mom is or if she was even in the house. I just knew that I had to get up and get ready to go to school. Otherwise, she would kick her ass if
Yeah.
we weren't at school. So it was just a relief to get away from, maybe even like the smell
Mm-hmm.
of the house, and being away from strangers and being in a place that's safe, um, and secure was a relief. Um, so when I would have to go back home, it would kind of have to be like a plan where like, okay, so I'm gonna go home, and if mom is still there drinking, I'm just gonna go play with my friends up the street. Because I know that if we were inside of the house when mom had friends over and drinking, um, she would get upset. Like, the big people are talking, like, go outside and play. So I would just rather not deal with what I already know what my
Yeah.
mom's gonna say, just to have a plan. Um, but it definitely was a relief, to get away from the chaos, um, and to making sure that I was safe. So being being away from home was was where I wanted to be, in a safe and secure place. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
That sounds about right. You know, and I know how that feels. Um, you know, there's a part of, I don't know, like piece of time, I guess, in my life where there was a lot of traumatic things that were happening. And yeah, just kind of feeling like, what next? You know, the
Right.
person's gonna come home and I'm
Absolutely.
sorry, for like, the expression, but it's just like that's really kind of how it felt. And it's like, what's gonna happen now? What's gonna happen tonight? Or, and so that
Yeah.
feeling of
Mhm.
uneasiness and anxiety kind of leading up to an event, I feel like that's kind of how it felt a lot of time. And um,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
when I was younger, like you played you played music and you sang, and I joined sports. I played basketball. I wasn't very good, but I still, I didn't care if I was riding the bench. Like I just wanted to be a part of that kind of team and just be there, and be away. And even if that meant, late
Absolutely.
practices or whatever they made us do, late games, that's okay because then I'm just away for, a little while longer. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100% because when my mom wouldn't let me like stay a night at other people's houses, the only thing that she would let me do is if I would, it was an after
Hmm.
school activity. Um, that would be with band or when the band would have to play for the basketball team or um, I know one year our girls basketball team went
Oh,
to
yeah.
state, so I got to go travel with them. And like I said, I was in science fair, so I traveled to New Mexico and came up to Bismarck. Like whatever it was to get away from the house, I got more involved in school because the more involved I was in school, I got
Yeah.
to get away from home. Um, so that's why like I was so involved in school, um, to get away from all of that at home.
I lied. I was in band. I was in band. When you brought up
Yeah.
the playing for like the games and stuff, I remember doing that. I was like, oh yeah, oh yeah,
Hmm.
I did that too. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, those were like the good times, the fun times, when things were happening in school and sports and things like that, right? It kind of
Oh yeah.
took you
Hmm.
away for a little while, you know. The
Absolutely.
other question that I had, I don't know if it's too personal. If it is, you don't have to answer, but you talked about staying at the group home for about 4 months. Was that related to like child protection stuff? Okay.
Yes, it was. Because it wasn't just me that was involved with the fight that I had with my mom. It was with a younger sibling. And she didn't even actually live with us. She was actually just staying a night with us. She lived with her dad, and she my mom was just so drunk, and I can't remember vividly on like what we were fighting about. I just remember us like getting into a physical fight and then going to school that next day and not even realizing it, like the bruises, the scratches, and everything. And my sister had went to school too with bruises and everything on her, and she ended up going to the school counselor, and the school counselor had called CPS, and I remember getting called down to the office, and them saying that my mom was going to jail for child neglect charges. So I I don't think it was such like an emergency thing that happened. Um, she like I had to get sent to the group home right away. Like I don't even know if they called my grandma because I know like on the reservations they implement res kids going with their families. So I don't really know exactly why I didn't go to my grandma's right away. But I was at the group home for about 4 months. Yeah, until I had went to my grandma's after
At that
that.
time, was there anything that your mom, needed to do as far as like counseling or anything like that in order for you to go back home? And is that something that she fulfilled that you know of? And
Yes, yes. I believe she had went through parenting classes. Um, and honestly, my mom has dealt with CPS system, I think, practically her whole life. And I do know for sure that she had to go through parenting classes. I believe she had completed them because after I was with my grandma for a couple months, and then grandma was like, okay, it's time to go home with mom. So obviously being a kid, like, mom, like, did you get your shit done?
Yeah.
Or, like, I was just, ready and happy to go home with mom. Because me and my mom had a very, very close relationship. My older sister and her had always like bumped heads. So I guess like I was the kid that abided by mom's rules all the time. And out of all of 11 of us, I never left, I guess, my mom's side. Like, cause like the rest of my siblings were with their dad. And I was like the main one that never left. Unless obviously I went to the group home or grandma's, but mom still came down and like visited and all that stuff. So I was like kind of like my mom's right hand
Yep.
man, So
It's kind of like that
yeah,
unconditional love, right?
absolutely,
We
yeah,
experience all this stuff or all these, can be traumatic events, but we still love them. They're our parents. And, I think
oh yeah,
later in life, we all come to find out that our parents are not perfect. I mean, and
oh
it's
yeah,
nobody's perfect really, and I think it's just I don't know, it's crazy when you get older. It's just kind of an eye opener, and then when you have your own kids, you're like, oh my god, yeah, okay, now I know. Okay.
yeah, absolutely,
So I mean,
yeah,
I'm I have my oldest is 18, gonna be 19. It's crazy even to think that I was a young parent. And that, man, I had to grow up really fast, and I learned a lot, and then I have a uh, almost 15-year-old, and then a 12-year-old. And then there's a pretty big gap in there. I think it's like 9 years. Then I have a almost 3-year-old, and then a 1.5-year-old.
right,
So I'm like, man, it's being a parent is hard, and we
oh
don't always make the right decisions either. And I don't know, I feel like I understand my parents more now, that I'm older. Um, and there's a lot of things
yeah,
that
absolutely,
personally, like, I have forgiven because I don't want to carry that with me for the rest of my life.
right,
And I share that with my siblings, and other people that I visit with too. Is like, like, forgiveness is, it's not always for the other person. It can be, it's not always for the other person, but it's mostly for yourself, so you can move forward, right, and live a good life and live in a good way.
absolutely,
And and then the bonuses of, you're forgiving that person too, so they can move on and live a good life. And relationships are not always perfect no matter what. And so,
oh no,
you know, even if it's like, I even think of like relationship with creator. My relationship has not always been perfect with creator either. It's taken some time to build and to understand like how to communicate, how to
right,
pray, always thinking, kind of growing up, like always thinking, oh, I got to know these certain prayers in order to be heard. And that's okay, if that's, we all have our own belief system, and we all have our own way that we pray. But for me personally, it was just like, I don't feel as genuine when I'm having those conversations with creator, and I just talk, and that's what I tell other people
right,
when they ask, and I'm like, it doesn't have to be complicated. You I think in our minds we probably constantly, some of us just constantly talk to creator, right? And we don't even really know that we're doing it. And then you catch yourself and you're like, oh, okay, but I'm like that too.
right, right,
I'm constantly having conversations, and um just so creator will like remind me of things, like reminding me to be that kind person, reminding me to be humble, reminding me to be grateful, you know, all the virtues that we grew up with. I do ask that creator remind me of those things throughout every single day, because I want to be a good person as well. You know, I, again, not, we're not all perfect, but you know, we can do our best, you know. And so um
Absolutely.
let's see, we did have a couple of questions here. Okay, so Tristan asks, so my question is, what would your best advice be for your daughter if she ever has any struggles with growing up with life? What would and could you say? Like, with everything you've experienced, how would you translate your struggles with whatever it may be that she is struggling with as she grows in age? That's a good question.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's kind of a long question. Um, so what would my best advice be for my daughter? Uh,
That's a tough one because it's kind of deep, you know, because there's
it
so many
is.
different
It
stages
is.
in their lives that they're going to be going through. Because how old would she be?
Right.
7? Okay.
Yep, she'll be 7
Okay.
this year. So,
Yeah.
um, I think at the age she's at right now, I would definitely tell her to keep going, really. And I think me as a parent, I have to be
Yeah.
honest with her, completely and probably brutally honest with her, because her and my mother don't have a relationship. Like she knows who she was, but she doesn't have like that, like I guess what I would wish that she would have had, like that, unbreakable bond of a granddaughter and a
Mm-hmm.
grandmother. Um, but I would definitely tell her to keep going. And God, yeah, that really is such a hard question because she's such at a young age, so I can't tell her like, maybe I can, tell her to be present, and to enjoy life as it is, because life is, it's ticking, and like it's like 2 years gone by for me, and I'm just kind of still like, wow, I still have so much to do. Um, But yeah, I would definitely tell her to not give up, to keep going. Um, and obviously, being her mom, I'm gonna be here right beside you. Whatever you go through. I think also being a parent, you like in order to build that like unbreakable bond, you need to be
Yeah.
honest with them, like 100%. Um, because I for sure would not want um to like have like that fear in my kid, because I want her to be able to tell me everything and anything and not be afraid to
Right.
tell me. Because like I said, there were some points in my life where I was afraid to communicate with my mom, because I don't know what she would say, or I don't know if she would get upset, or if she would ground me for even asking these questions. So I would definitely make sure that my kid knows that like no matter what you tell me, no matter what you do, there may be consequences, but I'm still gonna be
Mm-hmm.
here for you, you know. Um, so yeah, she's definitely at that age where she's curious, but she's kind of an introvert too. So I definitely want her to be out there and exploring and getting to know people, and because I feel like I'm a very people person. Um, she likes to be inside and play on her phone. Um, but she goes to
Oh,
Sundance every year, so that's something she really enjoys. Um, but other than that, I think that, just to, don't live in fear. Um, be a happy kid.
yeah, be a kid.
Um, is that like the
Be a
last
kid.
thing? Yeah, be a kid
Because
for
these
sure.
kids grow up way too fast nowadays, and it's like, you know, they're teenagers before they're teenagers, and you're like, holy cow, slow down, you know?
Mhm.
And I
Yeah,
remember growing
absolutely.
up, you know, I grew up in the country in Little Eagle, and we were like horseback all day long. almost every day probably. I know in the summertime we definitely were, and we would be gone just riding around. I don't even know where we go, but we knew what time to get to come back to the house. And if not, you could hear my dad, Brooklyn, and it just would like echo. It's so crazy because it would just echo, and you're like, you can hear from afar. And same thing, when we lived in town, we lived in McLaughlin when I was little too. And so, because we had a ranch outside of Little, and then we had a house in town. And so, um, I remember playing down the street with my friend, and I would hear my mom. She'd just stand at the door, open the door, and she'd be Brooklyn. And it's crazy because you could just like hear it. It didn't even matter where you could be inside your friend's house and you could hear it, and you're like, oh, I gotta go, But so,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm just like, man, I don't know. I just feel like kids nowadays really miss out on being kids. And, I tell my kids that too all the time. I'm like, you guys, like, you don't even know what's going around, going on in the world around you, you're missing out on so much. And because you're stuck like this on your phone, all day long, or stuck in the game or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, but yeah.
Right. I remember having to like beg my mom, like, can I go play outside? Like, can I go do this? Can I go do that? And like, she'd always be like, get your homework done or do the dishes and then you can go do this stuff. But I remember always wanting to go play outside. Um, that was the
Yeah.
thing.
Do you feel like it that way she was being the parent, like being a good parent in that way, like supporting your education,
I mean, yeah,
household stuff?
absolutely. Absolutely. Because like, I know how to clean house. I know how to, um, I guess, like the discipline that she gave me, it may not have been like the best discipline, but that's the way that I look at it as discipline because, no offense to, the younger girls back then, but like there were, kids having
Mhm.
kids, you know, and if mom didn't like implement me coming in before the house lights come on or, only being out for school activities, I probably would have been out, running amok, having kids or got into drugs or drinking right away. Um, and that's why I feel like also too, like after I turned 21, I just finally rebelled and was like, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do because I never got to do it when I was a kid. Or, like kids nowadays are like drinking at like 12 years old, or kids are getting addicted to heroin, like overdosing at such a
Scary.
young age, and it's so scary because it's like I was literally playing outside in the dirt at that age. I was still playing with Barbies at that age. You know what I mean? And I was just like, like what is going
Yeah.
on? So I definitely truly believe that it was mom disciplining me. Because yeah, I do like even at a friend's house, I do the dishes. I clean up after myself. I do laundry, making sure that the house is clean and like the little things like that that she taught me. It's like I'm
Yeah.
grateful for it because some days like it's so hard for me sometimes to see some kids like just throw the plates in the dishwasher or not throwing their clothes in a laundry basket or helping someone open the
Yeah.
door. Like the little things, like those things matter. And it's just, like where are they at? Where are the kids yet? The value on being, I guess, respectable in a way, if
Hmm.
that makes sense, So, um, yeah, I believe that mom did those things for a good
Yeah.
reason.
I feel like nowadays, like, our world is so fast paced that it's
Mm-hmm.
easy to just kind of forget about teaching certain little things. And but at the same time, it's not like we have to sit them down all the time and be like the teacher. We have to model those things for them, and that's
Right,
probably the
absolutely,
best
yeah.
way in this fast-paced world, that we can do those things. Because I mean, I don't know, I'm sure. Well, talking about holding the door, my I like to teach my boys that because I want my boys to be gentlemen, and they are.
Mm-hmm.
but you know, it's like
Right.
they're with their mom, you know, or going into the store with their mom, you know, and it's like I'll be, you know, walking in and yeah, I'm on my phone or whatever because I'm always doing something and I'm just like, oh, I have to multitask. And so but like
Mm-hmm.
a couple of times, you know, I'd be walking in and my older boy, especially, he would just open the door for himself and he'd walk in and I'm like, oh, and it almost hit me in the face, you know, I'm like, oh, you're supposed to hold the door for me. And he's like, you know,
Yeah.
but because, you know,
Yeah.
we're all in our own little zone. So I'd be like, gee, you almost let me walk
Yeah.
into the
Yeah.
door. But I
Yeah.
don't know. But yeah, so those things. And then we have another question. Let's see. What can you tell the younger people going through what you've been through? So our children, our kids today, our younger people today, our young adults, you know, um, what is the message you want to give today, I guess?
Hmm. I would have to say, don't do drugs. No, but I mean, kind of like I said in my story, is don't be afraid to ask for help. Um, and I feel like I had to learn to get really vulnerable and to be able to
Yes.
ask for help and to be willing to accept that help. Um, so it's like I said before, like kids at a such a young age going through things that I have never been through. But there's help
Mm-hmm.
out there. Like anybody, like even if it's just sitting in front of somebody and just like talking about it, um, can really probably lift off a huge weight of somebody. Um, so I think that would be like a huge message to reach out is don't be afraid to ask for help because nowadays there so much stuff is happening all at once. There's so much chaos in the world, and I feel like still to this day, like if you ask for help, um, some people don't get that help, you know. Um, but you never know if you do ask that one person, you could get that help.
Right.
So
And sometimes
um,
like
yeah, and just don't.
sometimes some people aren't in the right space to give help to. So I know that there's a lot of
Right.
people out there that be like, I have already asked for help. I've already asked so and so and so and so, and you know, they couldn't tell me nothing, or they just let me down, or and it's like, well, is so and so, are they in a healthy space right now? Or, you know, are you asking people that are in a healthy space? Because if they're not, you know, they're not gonna be able to help anybody else, you know. So
Right.
I
Right.
like that. The vulnerability. I can't say that. Holy cow, I've had
Yeah.
a tough time today. I don't know what my problem is. I think I'm hungry. Just kidding. um,
Felt
oh,
that.
but that's a really, really big one right there is the vulnerability. Um, because and maybe like touch on that a little bit from your perspective is like it does feel really uncomfortable and sometimes it feels scary and it's a new feeling because we have, you know, guarded ourselves for so long and, you know, kind of like, you know, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no, like you're just guarding yourself once you get to that place and then having to let your guard down in hopes that you don't continue to get hurt. um like
Right.
that's a real thing.
Um, Absolutely. I guess in my experience, kind of like you said it, like right, like I grew up with this guard, always making sure that my siblings were okay or I was okay and that we were safe. And I think after when I hit my rock bottom, um, I think vulnerability has to do with a lot of surrender. Um, Surrender to me nowadays is it's not about just giving up because we see it in the movies, right? Like oh, I surrender, the white flag's up, like I give up. But it's not about just giving up. I think it's a lot about giving in. Um, giving in to something greater than ourselves. Like I said, I'm very oriented in the 12-step program. So like I was able to surrender to a power greater than myself, and I um, had to really strongly believe in myself that like yes, like I can do this. And getting new in recovery too, like I didn't like you right away. I didn't like want to do this thing right away. Like um I just wanted to check off the boxes. I just wanted to do what I was told. But it took me getting uncomfortable with someone who I barely knew, telling them,
Yeah, you're freezing up, girl. Let me wait a little bit here, hopefully. It'll unfreeze. The weather outside is kind of yucky, so we'll have to add her back. Yeah, the weather outside's kind of yucky, and so it's like whenever the weather is like that, it just seems like our service is just not good. Whoa, hold on. Let's see. I'll add her back. Yeah, I mean, she has a really good point there with regard to surrendering, and I don't think it means what a lot of people think it means. If that makes sense. So you're back.
I'm
No,
back,
it's okay.
sorry.
I said when the weather is yucky like this, like sometimes our signal, our service is just weird, you know. So, but I had made a comment. Hey, here we go. It's freezing again. I don't know if she can hear me on that end though. I might have to start over again. Let's try it again. Sorry. What was I saying? Oh yeah, surrender not meaning what we think it means in this particular way. So I hope she pops back on. The next question, and when she comes back, we can talk about that. There's a couple of really good ones on here. I hope you don't mind. I'll mention your name. Justice says, I need help, but I'm scared to lose my babies. I really messed up this past weekend. I never do anything wrong, but this weekend I hit rock bottom. So I am in day 2 of withdrawal. Everyone walked away from me. Thank you for sharing that, Justice, because that's a very personal, experience that you have had just over the weekend. And, you know, I'm not sure where you're at, if you are detoxing by yourself at home, or if you're, with a program that's helping you. But again, it's okay to reach out and ask for help. And, if you don't have the list of resources, feel free to message me. I'm sure that Spirit would be okay with it too. I know Joe Smith, she was a guest on our show previously. She's willing to help. Pretty much everybody that has been on the show so far have been willing to help. But yeah, I mean, if you resources. So, I have a list of resources from my previous work, and so just, again, send me a message. We'll get something figured out. And I understand that it's super scary when you have kids, and I've talked with so many parents, mothers and fathers, about the same situation that they're looking at. And so there are resources out there. I know that there are places out there that do accept mothers or fathers with their children, kind of depending. And so, but yeah, I mean, if you message me, we can talk a little more about it. I'm open. I know Rosalind had another question. I'm going to check and see if Spirit is on. Yay, you're on. Okay. Try it again. I need to take a drink. Hold on. It's a Starbucks mod. Not sponsored yet. Hey there, girl. Okay.
Hello.
Just like impromptu. Ooh, you know. Just kidding. So I had read the comment from Justice, and I just, thanked her that it was for sharing something so personal, and then letting her know that it's okay to reach out for help, just what we were talking about. And she can send me a message, I'm sure, and I let her know everybody so far on the show have been really open to being supportive and providing resources and things like that. So again, thank you, Justice, for sharing that with us. And yes, please. So if you have any further questions or just need some guidance or some support, just reach out. Let me know. Rosalind has a question. It says, how many meetings do you try to go to in a week? Your schedule sounds busy with working, and is it important to hang with drug-free friends? That's a question for you. Can you hear it?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's just like a back. Okay. So the question was for meetings?
It says, how many meetings do you try to go to in a week? Your schedule sounds busy with working. And is it important to hang with drug-free friends?
It is very important to hang with drug-free friends, just so triggers, and it could jeopardize your recovery.
And
What is it? Sorry, there's like a back, like.
is somebody else in the car listening to the same thing? Like an echo?
No. Let me. Sorry.
You're good.
I'm gonna leave, and then can you add me again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. We'll do it again. Thank you so much, Shalimar, for following up with Justice and letting her know about the Zoom meeting. Excuse me. Very helpful. Thank you so much. And all right, let's try this again. Where'd you go? There's also a lot of Facebook groups that that host meetings, online meetings, or there's a lot of other resources online too that for counseling. Honestly, you name it, the internet has it, or somebody has it across the country, or it's out there. So so yeah, I don't know. It's not working, Spirit. Let's keep trying. Let's see. Oh, there you are. Any better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay. Okay. Good. Let's see. I just want to go through these comments here and see. I don't want to miss anybody. Melanie Thompson, watching from McLaughlin, South Dakota.
Hey.
Hey, you Spirit.
Good. Where my grandma lives.
Nice. Hello from Missouri. I saw hello from New York. That's cool.
That is cool.
I know. Let's see. Oh, what did I do? Hold on. I'm looking for these. Don't want to have dead air here, so I'll just... Hey, you're a singer. You should be singing us a song so there's no dead air.
Oh no, it's been years.
Well, you better warm up your vocals.
Yeah,
I
I know
have to...
my mom would always tell me to get back into it, and she would tell me that it's a gift that I have. So maybe
Yeah,
one day.
don't let it go to waste. What kind of music do you like? What kind of music would you sing?
Honestly, like I listen to pretty much anything. But so my mom and me used to drink together, and we would like sing country songs together. It would be really funny.
Like CCR stuff. I don't understand, like, why is that such a common thing? I've always wondered that. I'm like, why do people listen to CCR when they're drinking? You know, it's just like I don't know. I remember being younger and being around older people, and that's what they listen to, and I'm like, oh my god, it's the same songs.
Right.
It's so crazy.
Um,
Let me see here. There's another question.
um, I wanted to still answer that other
Oh yeah.
question.
Let's see. You left off on surrender.
Oh,
Yeah. Let's
okay.
look for that.
Um, right. So surrender, I've learned that, like I said, like it's not about giving up, it's about giving in. Um, and it took like it's kind of really like a spiritual thing. Um, and it's not just something that can be learned overnight. It's about something that you kind of have to like do every day. Like every day still to this day I get up, I meditate for at least maybe 6 to 12 minutes, and I make my bed, and I say my prayers, and I don't so I treat my God as a first responder rather than a last resort. I thank him before I ask. So, thank you for this day. Thank you for another sober breath. And then I ask of you to, and it's that's me surrendering every day, my will and my life over to God, because I can't do this thing on my own. I am definitely not the woman I am today if I didn't have, a God in my life. And like the vulnerability part, like I really learned that like being vulnerable can be a huge attribute to your life rather than, people call it as a weakness. Um, so I've learned to cry, and I've learned to be okay with crying. I've learned to be angry, or I've definitely learned that it's okay to not be okay.
Yep.
Because when my mom had first passed away, I right away, honestly, I tried to go to work like that literally that next day.
Oh wow.
And my boss was just like, Spirit, like, your mom just passed away. We'll be here whenever you're ready. And during that time, like, I didn't know what to do because I'm so used to like the life that I've learned. Like if I'm not doing something, then I'm stuck inside of my head.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm stuck inside of my head, I think about using, I think about drinking, think about making excuses, to be like the person I was before, like creating those old habits. So I have to constantly be doing stuff. And that's going to meetings, that's going to work, because I'm capable of doing these things now. um, I'm capable of going to work, and I'm capable of going to a meeting, and that's where I get like my spiritual juice, I like to say, or that keeps me from being me. So meetings, I go to at least maybe 2 a day. Still, I don't hit 2 every single day, but I do my best to at least hit 1 a day. And if I don't, like I said, I sponsor other women,
I meet with them, and just really like, we call it, being of service, giving people's rides, going to take someone to work, or going, like, whatever the case may be. Like, that's, I am, if I'm capable of doing it, I will do it. And all you have to do is ask, right? Ask for help, reach out if you need help. Like, I am willingly to put my hand out, for you if you just ask. So my recovery evolves around my life schedule. Because I am taught that if I don't put my recovery and God first, then nothing else will follow. So I have my work schedule work around my meetings that I have, because my recovery comes first. Um, and the moment that I stop doing recovery is when I start to, get drifted off from what my purpose is. And I haven't done it perfectly, but I do it to the best of my ability. Um, and recovery is busy.
Yeah.
People have said that, like, oh, like, getting sober is really boring because you don't go out to parties, or you can't do this and you can't do that. Like, no, like, recovery is fun and it's busy. Like, if you just get yourself involved with, like, meetings and meeting new people that are, sober and stuff, then you'll be able to have fun in recovery. I was able to be a part of this committee that threw on a conference here in Bismarck, and it turned out amazing.
Was
Like,
that this last weekend?
yeah, the
Yeah,
Hacky Pod. Yeah,
I heard
yeah,
about
I was part of the committee that put that together, and
it. Tell
it
us
was,
about what was it? Tell everybody what it was.
Hacky Pod it stands for Heartland Area, Young People's, AA, and Heartland Area is like in our region. So we have like Texas, Wisconsin, Kansas, South Dakota, North Dakota, anything in our region. Um, Heartland area, it's where, so every year, Hacky Paw is thrown in a different state in our region.
Okay.
So last year, some of our members, went down to Texas to throw down a bid, and they ended up winning the bid. So the conference got to be held here in Bismarck this year, and they got a committee together, and I got to be a part of that committee, and I was committed to it for 8 months, and I swear, like, there were times where it got so stressful and I wanted to quit, but I kept going. And, like, I was so humbled when I got to, see it all come together, and see all these people, in recovery, like, come together and, like, have fun in recovery. Like, we had a live band, and we had like a all night pool party, and we had meetings all night,
Yes.
and we had panels, and we had speakers coming from New York, Wisconsin, and California, and, like, it was amazing. It turned out really amazing. I just felt so humbled to be part of something that big, and now I'm just kind of like, what do I do now? I was committed to it for so long, and,
Right.
like, it was amazing though. I felt, really good. We had one person, so they call it a sobriety countdown. They have, a person, that is no longer in their recovery, and we have a person that is just new in recovery, and we got to present them with a book, and we had one person come in there with a 1 day, and another person with like 30 years. And what a beautiful thing to witness, to see that, old timer and that newcomer come in and, like, be united. It was really amazing.
That's awesome. If
Yeah.
there's any other events that ever come up,
Mhm.
definitely share on the tribal opiate response page, because just like you said, and I have heard that before, where people are like, being sober is not fun, there's nothing going on in my life. You know what, it's like, no, there are things to do, there are things. And so it's just finding out about the things, because a lot of times it is
Mhm.
kind of quiet, as far as like, anonymous meetings and things. You do kind of have to look around, but once you
Mhm.
find them, then you're gonna find a whole
Oh
bunch
yeah,
of them. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
yeah.
There's like a lot of groups, a lot of private pages, but there are groups, a lot that get together, and we call it fellowship, and we go out and have lunch. Or this past weekend we all went to the expo this weekend, and
That's cool.
it was just, you know putting yourself out there and willingly to, you know, get uncomfortable, right, and do these things in order to, you know, get with the right people. Because I too, like, I was in Minot and I wanted to like set the fire on recovery in Minot. And then I had to get to know everybody here in Bismarck, because Bismarck was my stomping grounds, you know, like I did not picture myself moving back here, nor did I want to move back here. I didn't trust myself back here whatsoever. So it was very challenging to be back here in Bismarck and to look for that help and to be willing to go to meetings that I'm not normally going to, or, you know, doing the uncomfortable things. But now that I've done it, like, I'm really grateful for it, because now, like, I can pick up the phone and be like, hey, like, I'm having a shitty day, like, you want to do something, you know, I have those people today.
Yeah.
Rather than turning to those people that would justify me going back to using or drinking, you
Right.
know.
Yeah, that's really important. I don't know if it's okay, but there's like an app or like a website or something, right, that people can look up meetings?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's called?
I don't even know if it's like breaking anonymity or not or anything.
I don't know either, and I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't want to break anonymity, but it's out there. So
but there is.
I would privately message somebody,
Yeah.
ask.
Me. Have a message
Yeah.
me and I can know all the groups
There
and
you
everything.
go. Yeah, because I'm like, I don't know if I can talk about this, but yeah. So
Yeah. So hard for me to like say like I go to this and go to that, but I have to say I'm in a 12-step program, you know. So,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. Let me see. I know there was another question, but I know you had answered that a while ago. I'm just not sure if Rosen was on. She just asked about if you were court ordered and to go to treatment.
So yes and no, if that makes sense. So I'm not court ordered because I actually had just recently asked my PO to if I had to go to treatment, but because of the foundation I had built in sober living, it shows that I guess don't need treatment, because I actually tried to go to treatment in Minot, and I was already like 3 or 4 months sober, but they need like people who are immediate users or drinkers, you know, which was kind of baffling to me, because I like the help that they like, yes, they provide the help, but like, what if I needed that help still, but you weren't gonna give it to me because I have already a long term of sobriety.
Yeah.
So it was just super unfortunate, but like also at the same time, it allowed me to be like, okay, like I'm doing this without treatment, right? And you know, no offense to people who had been through treatments or anything, but like I guess I didn't need the treatment because I've, you know, built a foundation of recovery in sober living, and sober living was very structured. Couldn't do anything.
The right
So
sober living, right? Because the
yeah.
second one that you were at, it's
Mm-hmm.
different. It's not
Yeah.
as structured. So right.
No, it was very, very different. The other one was very structured, a lot of guidelines you had to abide, and it really implemented a lot of things that I know today.
How long do you feel, just personally in your experience, how long do you feel it took for you to have more like a more clear mind? Because I know that's always a question as far as I know, you know, did it take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year? I mean, maybe depending on the substance, but for you personally, at what point in time did you feel that your mind was more clear?
Honestly, probably being maybe 8 months to a year sober, um, because I, you know, in the 12 steps, I completed them, and I was able to not have distractions, right? Like men, money, you know, family or anything. I was able to focus on myself and, you know, discover who I was. And it took 8 months to a year to do that. Not saying that like, oh, I had like these thoughts of wanting to go use or drink. There was a period in time where I wanted to leave the sober living. Um, it's really upon your own willingness and how much you're willing to do the work. Because it takes a lot of work to be in recovery and to be sober, because when you wake up, I too have those thoughts sometimes, like, oh, what would I do, like, if I were to go take a drink right now?
Yeah.
Or what would happen if I would go use right now? Like, or nobody would know if I just go take that one drink. Like, that's just like the spiritual sickness that I have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all upon your own willingness on how much work you're willing to put in on to get like that clear conscience. But it definitely took me 8 months to a year to get like the full effect on what recovery and sobriety is and who I was and who I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like it's important, or how important is it for like an individual who's starting out, you know, and it's one day at a time? Do you feel like it's important for them, if they decide that they would like to go the 12-step way, is it important to go to meetings every day?
So I personally think, yes, it is important for you to go to a meeting every single day. But I've also known people who don't go to a meeting every day, but who are in recovery, who are sober, who do live a good life, without like the 12 steps. So it's kind of really on what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Works for me that I go to meetings every day. Works for me that I have a sponsor. Works for me that I work with other people. So it's really upon your own personal choice on how you want to work your program.
Right. How about like in the very beginning, if somebody's just very starting out, very beginning of their journey?
I would definitely strongly suggest that they go to a meeting every day so that they kind of um, kind of get an idea on like what sobriety is, and getting to know people, getting to know like the right people who are sober and who are doing the thing. And you don't have to like get the sober or get the sponsor and go to meetings, but I would definitely say like let's go hit a meeting. Let's see if it works out for you. If it doesn't, then it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally don't know anything else rather than going to a meeting.
Yeah, because that was your way, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I ask you just personally, experience wise, you know, if that was beneficial, you know, the everyday meeting. I have met a lot of people where they're still figuring it out. They're not sure how they want to be sober, stay sober, but they want to be sober. And so it's just like, you just like you said, you know, you have to find what feels right for you. And you know, again, I was going to say what feels comfortable to you, but at the same time, it's kind of like being vulnerable too at the same time, you know. And
I
that's
think that's one of the key things, like being in recovery and getting sober, is like, are you willing to get vulnerable? Are you willing to get uncomfortable? Are you willing to do like the hard things? Because like you're so used to like the chaos, you're so used to
yeah.
like avoiding the feelings or avoiding like all of the problems, like, you know, like, are you willing to do the hard things? Because, you know, like I said before, like recovery's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna take like a lot of work. So it takes a lot of willingness to be in recovery.
And the honesty, like I know that sometimes is really, really hard because, you know, again, and I want to put this out there because not everybody is perfect. You know, I feel like there's a lot of times, you know, when I would be working with people who are in recovery, it's like for some reason they feel like, I mean, like they have to be perfect, and you don't have to be perfect. There is no perfect anybody out there, you know. And sometimes, you know, their family or friends or whoever, you know, relatives expect perfection, and it's like it's not that's not realistic. You don't
Right.
have to be,
Right.
you
And
just
I
have
think
to be the best version of you
right.
that you can be.
Absolutely. And I think that like too, like, because we're discovering like who we are, right? And like we don't want to fall back into the old person that we were. So like yes, we have to be perfect. We have to do this thing, otherwise like I'm gonna fail again. And you kind of said it before in the beginning, like we're way too hard on ourselves sometimes, and we don't give ourselves enough credit for the things that we do rather than the things that we don't do.
Right.
So it's just kind of really like
Yeah.
accepting who we are, and we're human.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And again, you know, just nobody's perfect, and you just have to work towards being the best version of you that you can be, and being honest with yourself is in my opinion what has helped me grow as an individual, you know, a mother, a woman, sister, auntie, and I guess technically in Indian way I'm a grandma. So you know what I mean? So it's just like that honesty piece, you know, just being really honest and with myself, and that's hard because sometimes, you know, the things that you go through, like, they're scary to be honest about yourself with. So
Right.
but it's just it's a learning experience, and it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And so yeah, so that's where we are today. I'm really, really happy that you joined me today on Recovery Roundtable. I really appreciate your story, your experience, and all of your words. And again, I know that you will have touched more than one person in, you know, in this virtual world here. So, yeah, again, I just, you know, just want to end on a really good note. I don't see do. Well, I do see some. Oh, we have some more questions. I didn't look at my thing. Sorry.
Hey, you're fine.
Okay, this is a good question, actually. Okay, because so Anna Jo says, was there any steps that was difficult?
Oh, yes. um, Probably the fourth and the fifth step. Um, Talked about it pretty much. This whole thing is getting vulnerable.
Yeah.
That was the step where I had to get vulnerable, but also um, 8 and 9, where I had to make amends to people, financial, places, family, friends. Still to this day, I am making amends to people, clearing up that wreckage, you know, admitting I was wrong. Um, and yeah, those were definitely some difficult things to do, but I'm still learning and I'm still growing, and still just, you know, my sponsor tells me all the time was, how free do you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it always leads back to, you know, I want to be free. You know, if I want to be free, then I have to do the things that I don't want to do. Um, so yeah, those were some difficult things to go through.
That's a good one. I like that. How free do you want to be? So I'm writing that down. I know sometimes people would ask me, well, how long is the program? How long do I have to stay? How long do I have to be committed to this? And it's like, you kind of have to ask, well, how long are you willing to be committed to, you know, this process? So I always had a hard time with that question because I'm like, oh, stop asking me, you know, like, but I get it, you know, because it for a lot of people it's new. It's a new experience, like you said. It's scary, and I always try to give as much information as I possibly could when helping people get into a program. And I know their families always had lots of questions, and and then a lot of times people would get into the program, and you know, they would have their second, third thoughts, which is normal, and then they would just dive into it. Like, some people would just be so, just dive in head first, and they're just swimming along, and they're doing their thing, and they're just rocking it, you know. And then the family members come into come into the conversation and they're like, I need you to send so-and-so home. I need them to help babysit. I need them to help you know, and it's like, oh, don't do this. Like, don't do this. You know, so-and-so is just rocking it right now. And just, so that was really, really hard.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And
especially with family, it gets, you know, really hard.
yeah.
But you're right. It's about commitment. It's about willingness on, like, because my thing is too is like, if you're not able to help yourself, then how are you able to help others?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Exactly.
it always goes back to like, I got to take care of myself, so I can take care of my family, so I can take care of other people.
Exactly. Because then I feel like a lot of times they would let me know, and then I'd be like, just, you know, just let's kind of wait it out a little bit, and we'd have a conversation about it. And then next thing you know, they're able to get a hold of that person in their program. Like, first of all, how'd you get them? You know, but then it's like, and then they change their mind, and I'm like, oh, you're gonna go home? Like, you're almost done, or, you know, with that part of that step, you know.
Right.
So
Absolutely. And in my journey in recovery so far, I've seen a lot of, you know, people come, people go, and you never know, like, you know, what someone is actually going through.
mm-hmm.
And like, I've seen some, you know, people go a long way and then, you know, not make it, or, you know, like on the reservation, there's been so many like overdoses, and it's just like, I have to keep going. You know, I don't want to be just a statistic anymore. I don't want to be like that person that, you know, like, I want people to remember me for something, you know? So like, it's just like vital that I do this,
Mm-hmm.
and I show up in recovery. Like I said before, my sponsor tells me all the time, you know, you be an example of what a woman in recovery looks like. And I keep that close to my heart, because it's like, I have people out there. I mean, she tells me too that I'm not that important, but like, I personally think that I have, like, you know, people that look up to me, and I want to keep, and it's not like the ego, but it's like, I want to be able to be that person that helps people and that be's there for them in a positive way, and that, you know, that helping hand that anybody can call on. So that is why, like, I keep doing what I'm doing. I always say too, like, I'm just trudging away. Like, people asking like how I'm doing, is trudging away, you know.
Yeah. How's it going? It's going. That's what I say all the time. It's going.
And like, with my mom too, like, because I really thought that, like, I really doubted myself when she passed away. I didn't think that I was going to keep going. So I say to myself nowadays is that, like, if my mom's, you know, passing was an excuse, then any other excuse should not be an excuse, right? So like, I, you know, I'm just like, oh, like, well, this is a little thing. And being an alcoholic and addict, sometimes, like, I will drink over a stubbed toe, you know, and like,
yeah,
I can get through this, and I can get through anything, you know. So I, you know, it's just vital to me that I stay committed and I keep going.
right. You're right about that, and that's a very good point. Very good point. You know, that you've gone through probably one of the hardest things that you will in your life, and you were able to overcome that, you know. So
Right.
that's important. I'm trying to think here. There's one more question, and then we'll end. So let me see here. Do you see a lot of Native Americans in recovery?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, it's home, you know, like, I'm not the only one. Like, you too? What's
Yeah.
up? So I feel, you know, like, there's a lot of people here, you know, natives in recovery. Like, it's a beautiful thing to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's important to share, to know that, because I feel like that's like, I've heard other people say that, wow, there's not even, you know, I don't even know anybody that's in recovery. That's a different ethnicity thing or whatever. Sorry,
Right.
it's not having it. But it's like, no, there are other natives in recovery, like, and they're amazing. They're rocking it. They're living that life, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful to see people like that, and that have, you know, just really dedicated their lives, you know, after maybe coming from such a really bad place and
Right.
just living now. You know, it's not,
Right.
again, you know, it's not just, we shouldn't have to just be surviving as individuals, you know, we should be living. Let's live, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
yeah. So again, thank you so much. And yeah,
Really grateful for the opportunity.
say it again.
I said I'm really grateful for this opportunity.
Yes, I know. I'm really grateful that you you agreed to coming on today. So thank you again. And you know, if there's any other times, like for meetings or like or sorry, with people needing to find some meetings and stuff, then just message you. And
Yep.
without breaking anonymity, did I say it right?
Anonymity.
What did I say?
It's an honor.
Anonym, whatever. Okay. It is 8:21. It's past my bedtime now. Just kidding. Um, so yeah. So again, you know, from my lodge to your lodge car right there. Thank you. And have a really good night. And we will see each other again, I'm sure.
All right. Well, thank
Thank
you.
you. We'll see you.
Okay, bye-bye.